Go ahead and call the meeting to order. The public comment. And approval of the 2017 meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Okay. And then the August 20th meeting minutes, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Board member reports. Report.
Anybody have anything?
Well, I'm excited to see that you all were awarded that agricultural growth zone, but we'll be talking about that, so I won't spill your thunder.
Okay. Let's see, board position opening.
Right, so I think in the last meeting, we mentioned that one of our new board members, Erica. Wasn't able to attend, she hasn't been able to attend for months at this point. And we've been kind of emailing back and forth, trying to figure out, is it a schedule thing, is it, what's going on? And she just says she can't get away from her day job during this time, so she resigned. So we have posted the opening for that Handler, Arden, Hominy area on the county website, so we do have one position open now on the board. So if folks just wanted to make sure we're thinking about potential new board members, or if you have a few ideas, you're welcome to reach out to folks and see if they're interested.
And just curious, I don't know that. If we're not getting some, I know we tried really hard on this one,
Yeah.
it took a while to get Erica. Would David, I don't know if David Lee would want to come back on,
Okay.
but would it be allowed now or not?
I'll have to check for when you left,
Okay,
and when he could come back on, and he has to be off for at least a year, I'm gonna say it was early this year.
was it? Okay, I couldn't.
But, or maybe it was December, so I mean, by the time
Yeah.
it gets started. It could be that he, would be open to it.
Okay,
I'm seeing them on Friday, if you
Yeah.
want me to ask them.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
I think it'd be great if it's possible, if he's interested. Yeah, thanks a lot.
yeah, he has a wealth of knowledge of this. Just for real.
I ever had somebody, Mr. Handyman.
Yeah. Or even if he is not interested and he wants the flexibility in the schedule, maybe he knows somebody out there.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
Yeah.
not asking.
Yes.
Perfect. Right, that's all up there.
Okay. Let's see, application for VAD and EVAD.
He's out sick, so I will. We just have one renewal, and it is Paul and Anna Littman out in Barnesville. Renewing their application.
They have the Ivy Creek Family Farm.
And you can scratch the two columns at the bottom, it looks like they were not updated. But it is 38.96 acres, it's eligible for renewal, and all we need is the board to vote to have them renewed from.
And you said you're going to just mark out those.
Yeah, those two columns are not updated, yeah. We have updated, since we've done this big batch of renewals, we have created a new VAD EVAD map and distributed to all the required county offices that we posted in. So that is now out and about with the new VAD parcels.
Motion to approve the Anna and Paulin renewal, the bad renewal.
Second.
You, all in favor?
Um,
Okay, all opposed? Okay, that's it for VAD and EVAD.
Yeah.
Farmland preservation report.
Alrighty. lots of good updates, lots of progress, sorry. We have been working with some new projects, doing some preliminary work, we'll talk about two of them today. But wanted to keep you up to date on some of the other folks we're talking to, so. The Jeff Bard project and the Ray Wilson project we'll talk about a little later today, but the other three are some new projects we've been talking about, so. Morgan Branch Farm, Neil Brogan and Wayna Brown are all out in the Newfound community. So this is kind of a perfect example of, as you close easements out there, like we just closed the Anthony Cole easements. Other people are, start to gain interest, and Anthony has been a big, a spokesperson out there too for it, so. Still early stages, but we are getting preliminary title review, which is a new thing we're starting to do now. On these projects to hopefully find title issues, liens and things like that up front before we even go down the road, so it's definitely worth that small investment. And then also getting some estimates for the landowners so that they can have an understanding of the potential for funding and
And what is, just so we know, basically what is that preliminary title review cost per project typically?
it's between $300 to $500 per project. So very, yes, and it's just, exactly, yeah, the attorney is reviewing the title, they might hire out some piece of that to a title examiner, but that's the cost that we're getting per project. So if you think about that small cost, and then you think about getting 2 years down the road at a project and then the project canceling because they have subordination agreement, and we've invested not only transaction costs, but staff time for 2 years, it's well worth that. And so that's a new piece that we're trying out at the early side of it, and we don't just do that if someone's calling us and interested. We're talking with landowners, and if they're saying, yes, we're interested, we wanna move forward, then that's what we.
Okay, and then those projects are also meeting all our parameters, so you feel like it's a pretty good shot that this board is then going to
Exactly,
potentially approve.
and the hope is that then when we bring it to the board, we know, okay, we can tell you. We have had, a successful title review. The landowner has seen the estimate and feels like they're, good with that number and ready to move forward. So that, previously, landowners weren't getting the idea of any figure until later in the game, where they may or may not even be able to back out at that point, so.
Yeah.
So that's the, yes, go ahead.
Is this new thing, this preliminary, would that have prevented what happened with the Nesbit farm?
You know what? Probably not, but it wasn't a title issue with them. It was is the landowner ready, like actually going to go through with it,
So it wasn't their
It wasn't-
appraisal that came back.
well, their appraisal came back. And at the end of the day, it seemed like they weren't happy with that number, because they kept trying to figure out other scenarios for, changing the offering to make more money. And so I think that scenario, at the end of the day, the number was probably not high enough for them, and so they were not ready to make the commitment of locking their land up as people,
We did a reappraisal on that.
and we did, and it came down high.
Yeah,
So.
well, if we're talking about the same Nesbit project, because we've done
Okay, the one on Cane Creek, kind of,
The
near the
Decker.
middle school,
the most recent one
Yes,
with the children, is that,
with the children of the Nesbits, yeah, with the.
okay,
I think we're talking the same one.
I think so.
We're talking, it used to be the John C. Nesbit property,
It was like 150 acres.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
You were there, yeah.
yeah, so
How much do we, just so I also, the pre-appraisals, typically, what does that run us?
that's around 1,200
Okay,
each. And we have a fund that's helping us pay for some of these preliminary costs. Out of the 224 project fund, so it's not any additional, funding, these are funds we already have. That we've used, at the end of the day, when a bunch of projects have closed and there's some leftover funds, we've consolidated some of those funds to be able to pay for some of these administrative costs. Which at the end of the day will save, it'll absolutely save us time and money. And we've also, if the landowner is fine to move forward and they haven't asked for an estimate, it's not like we're just gonna do an estimate.
Sure.
So it's really when they request for a figure and the project ranks well.
So just so I understand the process, the 300 to 500, there's no written commitment at that point, it's, those are
Correct.
that's risk of it. But the preliminary appraisal there is, right? I'm trying to relate back to what I did.
Yeah, so you were the first one we did that with. And so since then, I don't think we have required them to compensate back. This is us getting an estimate.
Okay.
After those two costs, if we move forward, we're very clear to get a letter of intent signed where they know they have to compensate the county back. And we check in, make sure they're wanting to move forward and before we spend any additional county funds. But this is like kind of this preliminary work to make sure it's a proper project.
Okay, so the letter of intent is after
Those two costs.
those two costs, okay.
Yeah.
I guess basically the letter of intent is after we approve at this board level, projects to go forward.
Yes, yeah, once it's been approved, and typically I think we get it. Once it's been approved and the commissioners have allocated funds, then they sign the letter of intent. We don't spend any of those funds, because the other piece is, until this board approves it, the commissioners don't approve it.
Right.
And then we don't have a budget associated with it, so that's why there is this need for this administrative fund at that level to be able to pay for small expenses, to be able to essentially vet these projects. So yeah, that's just a bit of an update on some kind of, some prep work that we're doing now in response to some of the backed out projects, so yeah, I'm very excited about those. We'll hopefully be able to update you more as things progress. We're planning to bring the appraisals have been completed on Kestrel Herb Farm, Battle, and Sandy Holler, so we plan to bring that to the commissioners for bond easement purchase funding at the October 1st meeting. So that will happen in a couple weeks.
Did those appraisals come in?
They were consistent, yeah, so that's very good.
Okay.
Kestrel Herb came in a little higher, but that's good in my opinion, because the pre-appraisal seemed low in comparison to other properties, so anyways. But yeah, they all stayed fairly stable, so that was good. Landowners were very happy with that, and that feels, fair. Starting the survey on the Okoboji farm, we have had some good news with Splendor Valley, that is always nice to hear. So they were able to close their SBA loan and they are in the process of finalizing the refinance. Our understanding is that the bank has agreed in this process to do the subordination. We haven't gotten the signed subordination agreement, but we've updated the grant agencies that as soon as they finish the refinance, we'll be like gung ho, updating all of the documents and getting, ready to close. So this is, very excited that that'll be happening. So we're already getting in touch with some of the folks about updating the documents, so.
That's splendid.
That is Steve. Yes, it is. Let's see, we are getting close to finishing the deed and title work on the Parham Fortner farm. Hope to close at the end of this year, potentially early next year. And that does remind me that a couple months back, and I can't remember if we talked about that here yet. But we got information that the North Carolina tax credit for easements is coming back. We don't have really any details other than it is coming back and it will be applicable to easements that close 2025 or later. So
I think it was 25% if I'm remembering, right,
I don't know.
I think they're putting it back, do you remember? Steve?
I don't remember.
Yeah, for some reason that number's in my brain,
Okay,
but yes, that has been approved to come back, and I spoke with Commissioner Troxler when he was here for the state fair. And I know there's some interest in trying to increase it, because then that would certainly help. So for some reason, I think that 25% numbers in my brain, but I can do some checking on that.
Yeah, so that's super exciting, that that's coming back.
Yeah, that would definitely help.
And so, yeah, it might mean that if, yeah. Alright, Rogers Farm, both tracks on the Rogers Farm, all of the documents, deed work and baseline, are in the works. We have a lot of documents in the grant portal for review, and we're just waiting on them to review it, so they're pretty backed up at this point. But those are both moving on really nicely. The title work on the Fisher Farm is proving to be more complicated than we had anticipated, unfortunately, because it was a project we wanted to kind of move quicker, due to the landowner situation, but, there's one parcel, towards the back of the property, kind of up on the mountain, that, that he acquired with adverse possession, and so, ended up that the attorney that he hired did not complete that process correctly. And so it's become difficult. Essentially, what we have to do is we have to prove that we have enough evidence that he has title, has title on that parcel for the title insurance company to, provide coverage, and they won't provide coverage of this amount of information. So we've dug a little bit deeper. We told the attorney to, dig a little deeper, but we're at the place where we talked to the landowner it was yesterday, and gave him, we can keep digging, that's gonna be more expensive, might not end up, getting the right information that we want, or we can exclude this section of the easement. Luckily, it's at the edge of the property, so it could be easily excluded, and so that's what Mr. Fisher decided he wanted to do. He can still keep it in PUV, we checked with Whitney, and as long as it's all under one forest management plan, it'll stay under PUV. But it could potentially add years to this process, so he says he doesn't have years, so he's ready to move that forward. So now we're following up with all the different documents, trying to update it to remove those 18 acres, so. The Sluter Farm out in Candler, we finally have some good news on that. It was approved for additional funding, so in your packet, at the back, all of the NCDA awards are listed, and they are, they're, listed essentially at the bottom where it says 8 open agricultural conservation easement grants were awarded for additional funds, so he has full funding now, and so he's another one, that will be, so essentially we have this week 3 projects that were sleeping have now woken back up. And with Splendor Valley, Sluter, and then Clark Maddox is the last, so.
So what was the additional funding that was approved for Sluter?
Ooh, I think it was around 185,000.
From the state or?
From the state, yeah, the original grant was around 160,000. And then we got the additional funding of 185, and so that gets him up to around 50% easement purchase, so that's very good. And so we'll be doing, a lot of the updating of documents on that one. And then we have the Clark Maddox project, which is out in Barnesville. So we've all kind of left this project. They had 2 different loans on the property. This would have been one where that preliminary title review would have shown us early days, and we would have stepped back from the project. 2 loans on the property, only disclosed one at the beginning of the process. And it was with Farm Credit, so we thought we'd be able to, work for a subordination. So over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I've been checking in every month with the landowners to try to, check in on progress on getting a subordination, refinancing, or whatever needed to be done. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I emailed and then called them, and they said, "Oh, we're still on the property." it's up for sale, and I was like, that's great to know, so glad that I called you and found this out. Anyway, okay, so the landowners are selling. We are pretty much to the last phase of the project, so we have spent around 14,000 on the project. They said that the new owners that they have, it's already under contract, are interested potentially in doing the easement. We've talked with county legal and our assistant county manager. And the next steps that we've been kind of recommended to do, due to like. Not being sure if the new landowner will actually, continue with the project, is that, we're just essentially. Going to call it a day and send them a letter saying that they need to compensate the county back for the funding that the county has spent, so that's where we're at, just wanted you to know that. The county attorney is essentially in the county legal's hands at this point.
Can we put a lien on
Well, we have a letter of intent, that's, clearly says you back out, this is, you're responsible for compensating the county back for what we've spent. We tallied up all the costs, and that's not including staff time, but I mean, that's not something we bill for. Yeah, so that's kind of where it is, I mean, it's not technically a lien, but yeah, we've been advised, like, it's the wisest to do this as soon as we can, because before the, land act is actually sold.
Yeah.
So Tony, who-
14,000.
it was around 14,700, I believe. And so yeah, that's our next steps on that. In terms of quality of the project, in my opinion, it's not a huge loss. It's a very small acreage, and
How much was that acreage, do you remember?
it's like 14 acres.
Oh,
So we only did it because it was directly across from another 20+ acre
That
project.
was the donation.
And it was a
Yeah.
donation, so this is, all back to lessons learned of, looking through title issues, early days. And also, not just accepting anything because it's a donation. And so I think we've definitely, learned those things at this point, but just wanna make sure I got you updated on that. And let's see, next I want, we have in your packet a map, the Fortune easement, so back in the day, this is before my time in under position, we used to, when we did easement projects, instead of having what we do have now, a farmstead area that, allocates a certain area for ag structures, we put in the easement language this excerpt. Essentially, existing structures can be repaired and any additional structures would have to be requested by the landowner to the board, and the board would approve that on a case by case situation. So Mr. Fortune reached out and has a request to build 2 small sheds to store some of our equipment. So this is me formally showing the board where the locations are. I don't know, you probably can't see it in your print off, but 2 little dots right there. This is an area that already has building happening existing. And to give you a bigger idea of the lands, the entire property size, it's a very small portion. Right here where there's a few buildings, everything else is undeveloped.
So this would essentially be what we call a farmstead area now, right?
It would be like an individual building request, so it's really not like we're creating, we would still follow the language of the deed, so if you wanted another one in a couple of years, you'd come back and do the same thing, and
And
it
this is
would have,
because this was before we used the farmstead.
correct,
land.
yeah, but it's the same, it's the same concept, where, but it just has to be approved by the board in a case by case situation. He came to the board, I would say like 5 years ago, to request this small shed as well. So we've done this before, since this easement has closed. So
And it really, to Steve's point though, it would meet, even though it's not called a farmstead, since this was before we started doing that. It would meet those parameters because it's within that same area, what we typically do
Yes,
for our farmstead.
agreed, if we did farmstead now on this easement, it would be exactly in that location where existing buildings already are, so it makes perfect sense. And yeah, it's. What do you think, so?
So in that case, I would move to approve the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Alright, let's see, I'm gonna share, I'm going to. Presentation now.
Chestnut Hill and Broad River area.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, I guess before I jump into this. We've already kind of mentioned it a couple times, but the back of your board packet, I put the announcement that the state sent out. They awarded the farmland development grant funds. It was a very competitive year and so. You know, I think that they had, let's see, he told me 95 easement requests and only 20 were funded. So that doesn't include, you know, the agricultural growth zone or the plans, but that's, I mean, it's highly competitive. So we were super lucky and excited to hear that we did officially get the award letter for the Buncombe County Agricultural Growth Zone Grant. So that's almost 2 million, 1.945. We haven't received the contract yet, but we were told in the next couple months we'll get that. So the idea behind this, I had kind of mentioned it last meeting, but one of the requirements for getting this grant funds is to match, you know, 1.94 from the county open space bond. That way we'd be able to really show, you know, we're leveraging a lot of funds and it would make the funding from the state go farther. So our plan is I believe it's, as soon as we get that contract, we'll come to the commissioners, we'll make a presentation showing the work that we've done to get this grant approved and then request that 2 million be allocated to this agricultural growth zone.
And you kind of had already shown and kind of requested us holding that previously,
Correct.
so we know that it's there.
Yes, it's been
Okay.
included in the bond projections
Okay.
For the past maybe year or so since we put in the application. So that's, yeah, it's not new news to the bond folks. But yeah, so that's the plan, and so now moving forward, so we have, I believe,
One question for it. And so, knowing that we had those bond funds, is that partly how you were able to get this? Like, did you mention that in here?
Yes,
that we
because
definitely
we
have
had-
matching?
exactly.
Okay,
That's
because
what we
that's
got.
a significant amount. I mean, when you look at their awards, I mean,
Okay.
that's basically what? 10, no more than 5%.
Yeah, it's a significant
20%
chunk.
of what they awarded, right?
And we, you know, we were allowed to ask for 2 million, so we asked for 2 million, so they, and we said that we had 2 million in matching funds secured, and so I'm sure that helped. In addition to just having secured match, all of the work that we as a board and as a staff have done over the last couple of years to create these priority zones. All of Elfnie's master's work that she did to, you know, improve our evaluation systems. That they were super impressed with that, and so yeah, we had at the last minute, we decided to attach her capstone, her master's, you know, paper. And yeah, they were super impressed.
Oh, good. Well, make sure you mention that
So-
when you come to present it.
Yeah, so that was exciting and I think that helped a bunch. It was like we were perfectly positioned to make this request.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and so it'll help us in many ways, you know, it'll reduce our timeline on our grant applications. We have, I believe, 4, potentially 5 years to spend this. Or to allocate to projects and spend it, so our focus with our projects will be on spending the AGZ funding or allocating the AGZ funding, so that's exciting. And so that's what I'm proposing today. These new projects will be, you know, potential bond AGC projects. And these are the two that we briefly mentioned earlier, the Jeff Bart project, which is around 65 acres out in Alexander. It's a working.
Sandy Muskane Lands is right beside that, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It is, we'll see in a second, completely like a puzzle piece around with the daylight surrounding it. But it is a working farm, he leases it out to someone who has cattle and someone who has hay on the property. And then we also have Mr. Wilson, he is out in Fairview, he's just a parcel removed from the Okoboji farm. Off Brush Creek, what was Brush Creek? 100% prime soils, that's like you never see that, so beautiful bottomland. Mr. Wilson recently had, so he worked, and the day he retired, he started farming, he's farmed for another 25 years, and now he's stepping back a little bit and is, leasing the property to the same folks that he was working with. So a little bit more, we're calling this Cedar Crest Farm, that is the road that it is off of. And you can see in this picture, this is the protected land surrounding it. So it is an amazing puzzle piece for land protection.
Definitely, and right there on the river too.
Yes, exactly, right on the river. Let's see, I don't think I pretty much mentioned, we have some preliminary, ideas of where he thinks he wants farmstead areas and house sites. He has a small existing house site here with a trailer on it. And then he hopes to have 2 additional house sites reserved. Not sure if he will build on them, but that's his initial plan, that, we can talk more with him at the farm visit. And then he has 2 existing farmstead areas here. So that's the initial plan for Mr. Bart. And then the Wilson farm, tomato, squash, peppers is what's growing there. So right here is Okoboji, I'm gonna be able to see on this next one. Oh no, maybe it's a couple parcels removed. But yeah, in A, you can see Okoboji, and then B is an already protected property from Southern Ave.
Wait, can you go back to that, please?
And this is that Fairview landing strip, I think.
Up in yellow there, so.
Yes, sorry, this is where,
Yeah,
this is our proposed parcel here.
Okay, so the land.
This is the Henderson line.
Fairview International Airport.
So, he wants to, this is part of the property, but he would like to exclude this section, which is good, because it has a bunch of structures on it. Reserve a small area for a farmstead area, and then protect the rest. Just wants to kind of exclude where all the houses and storage are.
Okay, so good, so the part he's excluding is where the buildings are and the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
We did talk to him and this, the green area. Is going to be included as a farmstead area, we just have to adjust our map a little bit.
Okay.
And he's also in good contact with the landowner that owns these fields here. And he's talking to that person with seeing if he would be interested, so that would add, another good, and I'm sure that that's fantastic soils.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great to have all those, because that's gonna be prime soils between that one all the way down to the.
Yeah.
Is that Cane Creek?
Yes. And he's recently done this. This section looks very different, but this is, I believe, Gravelly Branch. So it's a branch, and they've recently done a lot of stream restoration on that. And so, our focus, of course, is soils and farmland, but this also provides, some flood protection as well by protecting these bottomlands. And the recent, what were you saying?
Oh, so I think I've been on that farm, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Is that a riparian area, reason?
It, I don't think it's under easement, but it just went through the big EWP emergency watershed protection King Creek restoration that we did through soil and water and NRCS, so it has had a stream bank restoration, which will help with flooding of fields, and that, so that's very exciting. He also, he has a stream crossing area that they recently installed for him too, to be able to cross over through King Creek to access his other fields from the farm.
Is it a driveway, King Creek?
He does not, so over here is the road, going straight to, to King Creek, and does not. So it's the driveway isn't from Lower Brush Creek, it acts as Willie Mae Way, I think it's the road.
Oh, so his driveway is on, right off of King Creek.
Correct, yes,
Okay, thanks.
so you kind of go from there and that's how you access it because of.
But what part of it is flood zone, just how?
Ooh, I don't have that map, but I can definitely find out, I can
Yeah,
have.
I'm just interested in this because this area is just so ripe for development.
It is, oh yeah. But I'm guessing it's quite a bit in the floodplain, because yeah. Yeah, and
Bridge?
he has a bridge to cross the gravelly branch. They just built him that as part of the restoration project. And he does not have a bridge across King Creek, but he has a gravel stream crossing. But yeah, this is, so both of these, well, actually, no, just this one is in one of our conservation focus areas. For some reason, the Alexander piece, I don't think it made it all the way into where we mapped the conservation areas. But yeah, so that is this one. So that's just kind of the general overview. Our hope is that our next steps would be to bring or to have farm visits over the next month. I've got a couple dates on here to see if there's any availability, but you know, if they don't work, we can find some other days. And then we'll have the landowners visit our October board meeting. Our hope is that by the time, you know, in the next month or so, we'll get through the contract process with the state and bring an announcement to the commissioners in November to allocate those funds. And then this is a new program, so I'm anticipating potentially the state figuring out, you know, their own process, because they haven't quite done this before. And so I'll have to figure out exactly how long will it take for the state to approve it as an HEZ project. And that might determine when I come to, you know, I'm able to come to the commissioners for the individual project request. So the idea, this is just initial thoughts, that, you know, we're asking the commissioners around November to allocate the 2 million to like this HEZ pot. But I'm sure the commissioners still want to see these individual projects as they come up for requests, or not sure. So we'll have to see. Well, my thoughts is that we would still be following the same procedure we do with all other easement projects. We would just we would do, you know, a request for board action at the commissioners meeting, show we're leveraging funds with this project. This is coming from this pot of money, because it would be then moved from that pot of money to an individual project, just like we do with our other ones. So that's, you know, kind of logistics, but we can sort through that, we have some time.
So the idea is, right, you have the two pots, so you have close to 4 million, basically, with the two. And so then the idea is that we're gonna do up to 50% compensation like we've been doing.
Yes.
So you're using, basically 25% of it comes from the bond funds, 25% comes from the state funds to do a 50% purchase.
Correct.
And then 50% is the donation from the landowner.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll just be important to, like, when you present, you know, to have that information, because then my hunch is that, right, you're setting these aside, so then these projects are gonna be able to go more quickly, I would think,
Yes.
than your typical having to go after state or federal funding. And then at some point you could bring that back. I don't know that you need to get, you'd have to ask, I don't know that you'd have to get individual approval at the commission level again, but you would probably just want to at least say these are the ones that, but you can ask that question during the meeting.
Yeah, we can figure out that
Yeah.
piece. I think on the budget side, if we're moving it from one pot to another within the budget, we still have to do a budget amendment.
Right.
So
Okay,
it might still come through a budget amendment, and then if it's a large enough ask, it has to go on new business, I
Right.
believe, so there might still have. So we'll figure that out,
Okay.
but yeah, we got some time and then, yeah, so. That is, I believe, yep, that's all we got here. Any thoughts on farm visit? Do you wanna check your calendars and see if,
October 2nd works for me.
We only need a few, so we can't have 5. So just as a reminder. But yeah, okay, so Terry, you said that works, and Susie. Okay,
What time of that day?
you
You need flexibility, I guess, for your scheduling.
probably, I mean, we could do it. We could do it like try to hit both in the morning and then, would that be better? Or we could say, start a little later, hit one, have lunch, and then hit another one, so that it's, they're not in the same neck of the woods,
Yeah.
we'll be driving time. But that, I think we can be flexible and figure that out.
Yeah, I think I have some flexibility, yeah, when we can schedule kind of within the vicinity of each other, that does help
Yes.
with just the planning of the day, but
Yeah.
I'll just, for right now, I'll make a note on that day.
Okay, cool,
I could be an alternate for either one.
okay, sweet, perfect, alright,
If
that,
we can have what, how many, 3 of us or 4 of us?
you can have up to, you can have,
Okay.
we got 2, and potentially Mark, if you want to.
Yep.
You wanna go? Alright, cool, that's great, we're solid. Thank you, I will get that scheduled with the landowners and then, yeah, send that info out, but otherwise, that's all we got,
Will you send us some emails for when you can finalize it?
definitely.
If you need a last minute, know, please.
Okay.
And one more question just for the going like, so do you think from the state level, do you think they will continue to do these growth zone funding, or do you think this was a one-time?
I mean, I think it was. I would hope that they would continue to do that, cause it probably makes it a lot easier on their side of things. But I'm not sure, I haven't really heard the feedback, and it's kind of, and I would think it would be hard on their end to say, yeah, we wanna keep doing it if they haven't, like, the pilot. This is kind of their pilot, project, because they haven't done it before, they don't really know the
So,
success of it, but
So if we prove the success of it, that hope is then.
that's my goal, yeah, exactly.
Hopefully from their perspective, they'd see that they need 3 to 5 years to
Yeah,
see if it's effective, so.
yes, so we'll see, but you can see that the other folks that got approved for that, they're the other larger counties that have established programs. Big Orange, yeah.
But we got some
Had
good job.
Yeah.
So, it obviously helps to have, this is an argument at the importance of the bond funds to be able to leverage all of these funds. If we didn't have that to show, as match, then we would have been able to ask for the top amount. But yeah, okay, that's all I got, and,
That's fantastic. So
It's when you get worried staff like county.
Okay, thank you for that, Ariel. Announcements for discussion, anybody? I'm ready to adjourn.
See you later.
yeah, ag breakfast, October 25th, out at the Taylor Ranch, and yeah, so our hope, continue to rotate around to the communities. We wanted to have one in Fairview, and yeah, we'll see how it goes, exciting, so. Our hope is that we can have a few more this winter, or fall, winter, spring, before the growing season gets crazy, and that we address some of these important like planning, topics. So we have a new, and Steve might be able to speak to it more, but we have a new area agent with extension, Jennifer Badger, and I believe.
Sure. Yeah, Jennifer's part of the Empowering Mountain Food Systems Project, so it's a 3-year grant to look at, improving, really a kind of emphasis on farm to table operations and processing infrastructure, looking at community kitchens, meat processing facilities, marketing, other marketing channels, so it really kind of targeted infrastructure, and her part of it, through extension is doing agribusiness training with growers and agents and other organizations. She'll be working with some of the small business centers as well, like with her background is farm business management, so she'll be helping folks work through the enterprise planning, the budgeting, kind of the technical money side of the operation to. What's the old saying, if you can't make it work with a pencil, it's hard to make it work on the ground, so.
She works out of Bonham.
No, actually, she's, her home county is Jackson, or her house county, she actually lives in Brevard. So yeah, but she's got 12 counties in that Empower zone. And Buncombe is pretty close to a central one there.
So this topic came out of the farm transition work group that we've been having. She came to the last meeting, and our hope is that this is like one piece of that farm succession concept. Planning for business planning, focused around the farm, and so then we hope our next few ones will also have some kind of planning support like that.
And what was her name again?
Jennifer Badger.
But beef processing is still a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Surplus is booked up till January, maize is out till October.
Yeah, and I feel like, not to be pessimistic, that's probably gonna be a challenge ongoing. It's one of those chicken and egg things, but we've got more capacity coming online. The EBCI Cherokee Reservation just got a $6.7 million grant to build a processing facility. They're gonna start with tribal members only, but then they're gonna expand, as they build out to other areas around them. And Watauga's got a new butchery that is expanding. So there's becoming some more capacity out there, but yeah, the big ones, expanded on that, like maize, when they had the state money there to build out capacity back during COVID. But I don't know that they're gonna expand any more than they have. They're, I don't know, maize might be open to it, but they're a little inconvenient for us travel wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know the one in Rutherford, if they have any further expansion plans or not.
So the one in Watauga, when is that expected to come online, the expansion,
So-
how much of a expansion?
So that's a good question, and I don't know either answer for sure, but they just named their contractor and their processor. I think it's Catawba Valley Meats or something like that are gonna run it. They won the contract to operate it, and they picked a construction company to build it. It's gonna be on the old Watauga landfill is where they're gonna, or over part of their landfill is where they're gonna build it. So it's right there in Boone or near Boone.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it's
What capacity will the EBCI one have?
that's a little indeterminate right now too. They're gonna, they'll start with tribal members, but if you're building a $6 or $7 million facility, there's, they're probably in 500 cattle on EBCI. So they're, most of their capacity can be the surrounding area.
When do they plan to start? Do you know?
So I don't think they even have a date yet. They just got awarded their grant, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So they have all the funding they need?
Yeah, they have all the funding they need to build it between the tribe and the grant, is my understanding.
Okay, that's progress.
Oh, yeah,
That's on Taylorsville too, right?
Yeah, it'd be a good bit closer to Taylorsville. Cherokee would be, an hour from here roughly? Yes. Yeah, Taylorsville's probably the traveler, two plus, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it is, it's horrible anywhere you go, you got heavy traffic or windy roads, you can take your pick, but, you know.
That's all good news.
Yeah, so, yeah, good news on that front, but, you know, local food, I think the pandemic, that was one of the small silver linings it had, it really underlined how pitiful our local food processing capacity is, so.
And did Inflation Reduction Act bring any money to this stuff or?
To my knowledge, not as yet,
Yeah.
but, you know, there's, you know, some of these, I don't know, and Eric will probably know better than I do, but a lot of times, once the feds start funding something and they see that it's good, they'll go on down that road further, so, you know, they may, you know, as they build some of these things out and see where we are on capacity, they may, you know, offer some other, you know, some other opportunities. But, yeah, it's, I would never presume to say I'm smart enough to predict what the federal government will do.
Or how long it will take.
Or how long it will take. We still play a while,
Any other announcements or discussion? A motion to adjourn?
So.
In a second?
Everybody made the percent.
Yeah, about 45 minutes is the capacity of these chairs.